Hi, I'm Robert Gurr. We're from OneSavings Bank. We're here at FSE at the fantastic Billingsgate in London, and rather uniquely and quite pleasingly, we're joined by Rob Jupp, CEO from Brightstar, and Adrian Moloney, Sales Director of OneSavings Bank. So we're just here to do a couple of interviews with the guys to see what their thoughts are around the specialist market. Rob, if I can start with you. This year we've seen a few new entrants into the specialist market. You know, a lot of people are looking to do limited company portfolio lending. How has that changed the specialist market for you, if it has at all?
Yeah, I think probably last year we saw more than certainly we saw this year, and perhaps even the year before. And there's been far more opportunity and far more products. I think that's challenged lenders' margins, and competition for the consumer at face value has been a good thing. I think if we're looking specifically at the buy-to-let market, what's happened with the Osborne tax changes is that the buy-to-let market, which is traditionally mainstream, is far more specialist now. So an interesting market. There's a question mark for me whether there is actually an oversupply of lenders now for the available size of the market, and I'll be interested to see in the next 12 months whether all those names make it within the new regime.
And just on that, just picking up your point before I come to Adrian, actually, if there are so many, specialist lenders all doing that, and like you mentioned, it's become the mainstream, can anyone actually call themselves specialists?
Yeah, I think so. I think the shocking statistic is that the largest specialist lender in the market, which is the Lloyds Banking Group, isn't deemed as a specialist lender. So, these lenders in the main are doing stuff that the regulator would see as being specialist. Whether they will be with evolution or not is a different question mark. But I think they are still firmly in the specialist world, actually.
Okay, thanks for that, Rob. Same question to you, Adrian, from a lender perspective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've seen new entrants come into the market. Fighting, I guess, for market share and to maybe make some impact into the bigger players like OneSavings Bank. But I think, the ability that we have with the diversity of where we can raise funds from being a bank really plays into our hands. And of course we can, be flexible on the underwriting, whereas quite often some of these new entrants, very much black and white, tick box, it has to fit that or it doesn't, because inevitably that loan's going to be securitised. I mean, we've seen a great deal of success in our product transfers, our Choices programme, because it gives landlords that flexibility at the end of their term of I guess, their fixed or preferential rate. But I think what's won out for us, it's not always about being the cheapest rate, it's about delivering on the right decision. I think we do that really well.
Thanks very much for that, chaps. And just on that, while we're sticking with this kind of theme, lots of new entrants, specialists out there. Can any broker literally just get straight involved in specialists, given the amount of people that are now doing it?
Yeah, they can, because they can either upscale their businesses to have individuals in it that are experts within the given field, or a very nice linking for me, thank you very much for that, they can work with a market-leading specialist like Brightstar. So a new broker coming into the mortgage market for the first time, of which sadly we're still not seeing enough fitting into that mould. It's still too much of an ageing industry, but we are starting to see a few, and they are able to hit the ground running straight away. And actually, probably, I think it's fair to say, my personal experiences are that the newer entrants are a little bit more open-minded to this as a product area. Where perhaps we struggle are the guys and girls that have been doing it for several decades, that are in a routine of doing the same type of products all the time. And we have less success with that type of advisor than we do the newbies, actually.
Fair enough. And Adrian, I guess you kind of agree along those lines as well.
Yeah, I think, choice is key. You see bigger firms with bigger infrastructures being able to set up specialist departments. Inevitably, that's what they were going to do with the changes. But actually, I think, the specialist distributors have evolved. It's not like what it was 10 years ago. Certainly, we support them. With the likes of Brightstar, we have on-site underwriting support, which again is there for them to tap into to talk about the more difficult deals. So it's all about choice. And it is a more complex market. Some people can't be specialists in everything.
Fair enough. And just come back to your point that you made there as well. Tax changes coming in. We've all seen that for the last couple of years. How are you finding kind of transactions and kind of lending within the specialist space? Is it still holding up? Still decent business to be made?
Yeah, very much so. I think there's an absolute bonanza shop window right now, actually, where a number of of large professional landlords are looking at the tax changes. They're going, well, I need to secure my margin. I need to make sure I can continue to have a successful, cash wielding portfolio. And how do I do that? So we've seen a number of them, and we've had a number of really good transactions between our companies where, broadly speaking, a large landlord is taking it from own name or partnership into a limited company structure. So the transactions like that, I don't think will go on forever. I think there's a fairly limited shop window. I'm not quite sure how long that will be exactly. My take is it will be probably 24 months maximum. But there's an opportunity there right now to do really well out of these customers. But, and it is a but, the fillip I would say is that advisors need to be sure that they're not the ones giving the advice for the customer to go into that structure. They have to limit and distance themselves, and there needs to be a firm undertaking from the firm that they've selected in terms of their tax advisor that they will give accountability for their own advice that they're giving. That's really, really crucial.
Actually, I think that's a mantra that we've been banging on as well with OneSavings Bank. Do you just want to comment on that as well, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, leave the tax advice to the specialists, and you pay for what you get in terms of tax advice. Certainly, we see with the bigger transactions, it tends to be larger firms giving the advice on that. I'm kind of with Rob. I mean, I don't know how long that window will last, but what you'll see, I think, next year is the first year when landlords who haven't prepared for this prepare their tax returns, that starts to bite them in the pocket. So I actually see some real opportunities next year as people start to look at the longer term plans for their portfolio. And it may well be they sell some of the properties, because from an investment point of view, if a certain investment isn't performing, you tend to change that. But landlords who do this, who plan correctly, are the ones who have the real opportunities as properties come to the market as well.
And I think this is what we've been saying, what we've been discussing, is they're now looking at it as a proper business, as you will, with the right advisors, and taking appropriate action where you can. Which brings me on, when you talk about opportunities for next year, is pretty much where I want to kind of end this from you both, and I'll start with Adrian this time. Where do you see, from a lender, is where those opportunities are, and it is probably at the larger end, I guess, but anything else you see as growth within 2019?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of lenders out there where landlords are sat upon which don't lend anymore. So any fundamental change to their portfolio or their buy-to-let mortgage, they will need to move it. And I think that's an opportunity. Certainly we saw it with one of the particularly large transactions we did through Brightstar this year. I think HMO legislation in there, there's changes to the way in which properties have to be configured. I see a big opportunity in short-term finance for that, because I think landlords will tap into that while rates are at a record low in terms of bridging or short-term finance, to do upgrades, to do additional work, and then term it out. So I think a real exciting year for the broker community. Those that are well advised have got plenty of opportunity.
And Rob, just following on from that, certainly from a broker's perspective, advice, when we're talking about growth, and to meet that growth, what advice have you got for brokers particularly?
I really get why many intermediaries are really cautious at the moment. I really understand that with the view that there's some black clouds in the horizon with March next year. Advisors are concerned that their businesses are going to have a downturn akin to 07-08, and therefore they're not recruiting. I'd be really simple on this. Fortune favours the brave. This, in my view, in 2019, 20 and 21, will be 3 years of housing days within the specialist market, and it's those that see that and, yes, admittedly take a risk in trying to seize that market that I think will be the biggest winners moving forward.
Listen, chaps, that's great. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're itching to kind of get off and see everyone while you're here, but thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Thank you. And just on that, please check out our LinkedIn social media feeds for all the information and videos that we provide. Have a great day. Thank you.